Okay. It's 9 a.m. and unusually for an Italian, we're going to start the conference on time. So welcome everyone, and as a tradition in the last few months, this is not working. All right. This is an NSA sanctioned event. Everything we do will be transmitted overseas. Don't worry about it. Okay, so part of this is that we finally managed to get a very fast internet connection. So this year we'll have, like last year, 100 megabits that is available throughout the conference. The Wi-Fi itself is not 100 megabits, but we haven't done that yet. And there are two networks, a 2.4 gigahertz and a 5 gigahertz, called both EuroPython, and the password is Python 2013. And they should be working throughout the venue, and you should be transparently be migrated from access point to access point. And if you are having any issues with the Wi-Fi, please go talk to the people with the red shirts and something funny written behind. If you just have a red shirt, you're probably not liable. Like every Python sponsored conference, we abide by the code of conduct, which is available at the URL displayed at the bottom. We are not very tolerant of violations of the code of conduct overall, but we also try not to be like Judge Dredd. We don't cast law upon people. We try to inform ourselves about whatever happened in a situation that might be gray line and gray area, and if something, we determine that something has violated the code of conduct, then we will take measures, and in case of very, very bad violations, we will talk to the authorities. So behave properly. Do not make anybody uncomfortable, whether they are women or men, and just enjoy your time at the conference.
So you received pages. You should have all your stuff inside. So if you bought any extra ticket, SIM cards, or you should have also your cocktail invitation inside. Cocktail invitations are based on your tags on the website. So depending on the topics you want to follow, you have the invitation inside. So please check the bag. You should have received also the brochure and so on. But most important, this one. No, not this one. The conference book guide. This one. Here I have all the information you need for the conference and the maps for the events and so on. Check the schedule. This year we have a full schedule. Five talk rooms, 2 training rooms. We have the help desks going on, coffee breaks during the morning and the evening, lunches, very good lunches. And we also had this new initiative of the Pi wine. We made some Tuscan wine bottles labeled Pi wine. You will enjoy it during the lunches, but you also can buy some bottles by the desk. And we have the recruiting sessions happening today, and then recruiting meetings during the whole event. So stay tuned. The line team talks during the event as well. We are live streaming, and thanks to our collaboration with the NSA, we can live stream. We live stream all the talks and also your activity. So don't be afraid. Everybody will be informed. Okay, so again, the Pi wine. And we have the Pi pizza lunch, like the last year. We have 100 tickets per day. You can pick one on the registration desk. No need to rush or that they are full of places. The cocktails, cocktails every evening. And again, you should have received your invitation. It's invitation only, and it's on the roof of this building. And we have, the front building, sorry. And we have the overflow room. This one, it's on the back of the desk. You picked your T-shirt this morning, and in case of overflows, you can follow the talks and with headphones and so on. Outside, it should be enjoyable. And again, this year we have the Guidebook app, mobile app. You can enjoy the conference with updates live. We have all the maps, the events that you can schedule, and have your own user schedule. We have live talks, feedbacks during the talks, so you can vote during the talks, and you can give a vote through the feedback form afterwards.
Okay, so the 3rd of July we'll have a Pi barbecue. It will be in a place that is marked on the first page of the map of the booklet. It's close by, and we'll have more than enough burgers for everybody that has joined the list. There's also still around 10, 11 spots left. So the first one at the entry desk will get all 11, and then they can sell them. And this is not all the events that we have. There's a lot more events. They are all marked. The ones that are not happening in the hotel are all marked on the map, and they go from Pi Beer tonight to the Google Code Jam tomorrow, and the extremely hard Pi Riddle on Thursday, I think, and then or Friday, and the Google App Engine Hackathon on Saturday, and then, as you said, cocktails every evening of different topics for only invited people, and then sprints on the weekend. Also, new initiatives this year. We're trying to organize a little bit better the use of the open space. So on the front desk, there should be a ticket like this, and we'll have outside dashboards like this too, and you can take these tickets, fill them out with the topic of your discussion that will happen in the open space, and then pin your ticket in the time slot available to you, so that everybody can know what's going on in there, and we don't double book the not infinitely available open space.
Yeah, so we still have room for partner programs. You can still buy tickets, and the meeting place is in front of the desk. If you have booked your partner program ticket, the meeting is there. One thing that I forgot to mention is that we are live streaming, but we also being releasing the videos as soon as possible. So this is the last year in Italy. Yeah. No, 3 years is enough, I think. And we'll be announcing the new venue and the new country on Wednesday. We released a call for proposals some weeks ago. Actually, we are sorry that it took so long to release it, because we didn't leave so much time for the other teams to organize and to release a proper proposal. But yeah, we received a very, very good proposal, and we are just checking it with the teams. So I think I talked by the rest of the EuroPython board that we are pretty much happy with that. And yes, it's not in Italy. So enjoy. Thank you.
So we are super early. So I guess we'll just play a game or we'll have the first talk. No, we'll have the first call. Yeah, you have time to go over. There's a question? I have no idea. I don't think so. There's too many of them at the same time, and cameras are only able to. We're only able to do live streaming and do the recording of the main conference rooms. Yeah, if you want to snoop them or something by hidden. NSA is recording everything always, so that will be available, and will be used against you. Before we start, also a reminder for all the speakers of the conference to please, before their talk, usually in the coffee or coffee break or during lunch, to come to the conference room where they are going to have a talk later in the day and test their equipment, so that we minimize the time for shifting between a talk and another. Van Lindberg is needs almost no introduction. Is the chairman of the PSF, and he's going to talk to us about what's going to happen in the next 20 years until I retire of the Python language.
You know, there are an incredible number of people here. I understand this is just about half. I understand there's also a bunch of people upstairs. For those of you on video, I'm looking at you. Anywhere else that I need to look? Well, I am super excited to be here. You know, this is really one of the most exciting things. You know, EuroPython is the original Python community conference. You know, you guys have every other conference beat by I think 6 months. So you were the first one. Here we're going to be talking about a lot of things. And as we go through, I want you to know, if you have some questions, if you have some comments, feel free to make them, because this is really about all of you and about how important it is to support and to build the Python community. You know, first of all, I have to say congratulations to the EuroPython organizers, especially everybody who's wearing a yellow shirt or the people who are up there. Let's give them a round of applause. You know, in fact, if they could, for the organizers, if they could stand up for a second. They're all working. All right. You know, I had the opportunity to do sort of the same thing that they were doing over in the US version. And you know, it is an incredible amount of work. And you don't realize it when you're just coming to the event and you're attending, because if everything goes perfectly well and the organizers have done all their jobs correctly, nothing goes wrong. And you don't notice it. It ends up being invisible. But it is truly an amazing amount of work to get the talks, to corral the speakers, to put together the beautiful printed program, to do all of these things. And so this is an amazing amount of work. It's really a labor of love, and they have done an excellent job. So I want to talk a little bit about Python. Python is actually just about 20 years old. You know, the first public release of Python was in February 1991. But I was looking back through the history and the archives, and it turns out that this month is actually the 20-year anniversary of the 0.99 version of Python. It was released, I believe it was released 29 July 1993. So just slightly shy of 20 years, Python has been around in essentially a finished form where people are really deploying this, doing this, using it for all sorts of things. You know, Python was originally conceived as a skunkworks project. It was just Guido. He didn't have any budget, and he said, you know what, I need to do some things to really make this work, to make it so that the people will support it. He was at CWI in Amsterdam at the time. And so said, what can you do? And so this led to a number of really interesting design choices that he made. You know, he said, first things, borrow ideas from wherever you can. You know, don't try and reinvent the wheel. Look for the good things. He specifically noted the value of Algol 68 and some of these, and C and some of these other languages that he had grown up with, and said these were very important. Said make things as simple as possible. One of the things that makes Python great is that you tend to take the same sorts of concepts and you reuse them over and over again in the same way. And so that takes that simplicity and it really adds a conceptual integrity to it. You know, do one thing well. Don't fret about performance. You know, one of the things that has been a consistent issue is, you know, how fast is Python? Is it fast enough? But really, he said, we can optimize later. It's more about getting it right for the programmer. And I would say even for the community. You know, don't fight the environment. Don't try for perfection. And it's okay to cut corners sometimes as long as you do it right. And what's more is he actually had some other concepts. These were sort of the time savers. But he had some other things that really actually added a lot of time. Don't tie it to a particular platform. This is particularly interesting because one of the very first implementations of Python was on the Amoeba distributed computing platform. And it went very quickly from there. It was on Unix, it was on Amoeba, and it went very quickly to Mac. And so having it on these three disparate platforms really made it easy to go cross-platform early. And that's one of the reasons why Python actually has excellent Windows support relatively early, is because it wasn't really tied to Unixisms as deeply as a lot of other languages at the time. You know, don't bother with users the machines can handle. You know, another one is this idea of cross-platform code. You know, don't cut off access to make everything. Basic things should fit everywhere and work everywhere, but don't cut off access to the platform. This is in sharp contrast to languages like Java, where they said, you know, we're going to re-implement stuff everywhere instead of actually giving access to the underlying system. And you got these strange-looking, you know, SWT and AWT, and they're still fighting it these days. You know, then they said, you know, a complex system should have multiple levels of extensibility. You know, this maximizes the opportunity for users. It allows sophisticated users to help themselves. And this has really been the growth about the growth of the extensibility of the Python platform. You know, they talked about errors should not be fatal. As long as the virtual machine itself is running correctly, you should be able to recover from errors. And in fact, with errors not passing silently, this is what led to exceptions being a core part of the interpreter and throughout the implementation. And finally, you know, it is the job of the Python interpreter to really get out of the programmer's way. A core dump is never the programmer's fault. You know, Guido really got a lot of things right in those early days. But Python has always been an opinionated language, somewhere between C and Shell, really trying to make things easy. It was always about the programmer, and I would say even about the community at that time. It was the sweet spot for a lot of applications, and that's what led a lot of early developers to Python. But I'm not here actually to talk about the technical implementation of Python. Well, much. But I'd like to talk about something else that Guido got right. And that is, meaningfully or not, he succeeded also in creating a community around Python. Now, there were a couple key decisions that led to this. You know, there was the first was creating an excellent language. If you don't have an excellent language, if you don't have the base technical implementation, there's nothing for people to gather around and rally around. But Guido also released Python under an open source language, or under an open source license, even before the term open source was invented. And he encouraged us to have a sense of humor, naming the language itself after the Monty Python troupe. Another thing that they got right relatively early on was that Python had a sense of values. Now, who knows what happens when you go into the interpreter and type import this? How many have done that? Almost everybody. Yeah. These are Tim Peters' words about the values of Python. And it appears that these were originally sent to Python list in June 1999 under the subject The Python Way. But, this is really, the story behind this is actually kind of funny, and because it all took place behind the scenes. It was actually about one of the predecessors to this conference. Before EuroPython and before PyCons of various stripes, there was the IPC, the International Python Conference, which was being organized by Fortech. Fortech was a nonprofit under the Corporation for National Research Initiative, CNRI, where Guido and Fred Drake and Jeremy Hilton and Barry Warsaw and some others had worked early on. I think at this time, they had actually left for Digital Creation, soon to become Zope Corporation. But Fortech was organizing IPC 10. And they needed a slogan for the conference and something that would fit on a t-shirt that they could really put in, and that they could really use as an organizing effort. And the Python Labs team agreed to judge all the different entries that came from the community. Now, they put in, they got something like 500 entries, and frankly, most of them were terrible. Tim's exact words were, "Geez Louise, I can't look at these for more than 5 minutes without my brain turning to mush." But he still managed to do an initial cut. He cut it down to about 130 entries. And then he went back and forth between him and Barry Warsaw, each cutting half each time, trying to get to the ultimate group. And at last, Barry was left to choose from the last two entries, which were bite off all you like, chewing is optional. Yes, I said they were awful. And import this. And Barry really liked sort of the irreverent, almost the sneering tone of import this. Like, come on. And so that's what it was. But as soon as they did that, they said, you know what, we really have to implement this thing. And so what they did is they turned off the import check-ins. They were just about to release Python 2.2 at this point. They turned off the import check-ins, and they actually put in the this.py module. And for just a little extra obfuscation, they ROT13'd the actual contents of it. And so when you import it, it decodes it, just ROT13, and prints out the Zen of Python. And they put this into version, after IPC 10, they put this into version 2.2.1 of Python, thus also incidentally committing the sin of adding new features in a point release. But, it was a long time before anyone actually found the little Easter egg. But this has become a core part of our ethos. We have values. We like Pythonic code. We behave Pythonically. In the past 20 years, we have actually grown quite a bit. I think we've grown a lot more than Guido expected. When he started, he had a small group. Python Labs was five people, I think. The early conferences and the early get-togethers I think they started with like 20 people or 30 people. It wasn't really until the 2000s where it really started exploding. But based upon some of our surveys over the past couple of years, there are hundreds of thousands of users using Python, maybe even millions, but explicitly using programming Python as part of their jobs, hundreds of thousands of developers. And there are thousands and thousands of companies that are letting, and organizations that are letting them do that. You know, that's an amazing thing. If you think of all the jobs, if you think of all the people, if you think of all the stuff that's going on because of Guido's little language, it's quite something. But Python is very, very widely deployed as part of because of this, much more broadly than really any competitor language. I would say a lot of competitor languages are Lua, Article, Perl, Ruby, things like that. For example, Python has become the de facto scripting language of the movie and animation industry. I think we're going to be hearing more about that a little later today. All of them use Python as their glue language for their internal production pipeline. You know, Python has taken over for Perl as the standard language for bioinformatics. It is the implementation language for actually two of the leading cloud network platforms. Most companies in the international financial infrastructure use Python for their algorithmic trading. You didn't know that, but if you take a look at especially any Python conferences in London or in New York, you'll get a whole bunch of guys from Goldman Sachs and HSBC and these big banks. It's because they do all their internal algorithmic trading in Python and NumPy. And finally, Python has made huge gains in the educational space, finally replacing Java, thank goodness, as the primary teaching language for a lot of universities. You know, at the same time, I think that we also face a number of challenges. You know, these are both technical challenges, and I would say they're almost market share challenges. You know, in terms of pure language competition, JavaScript, I think, is a big one. It's moved from sort of a buggy, browser-only, sort of inconsistent implementation to actually a fairly good competitor on the desktop, in the server space, and particularly in mobile, where there are JavaScript runtimes for most mobile for most mobile platforms. A couple of years ago, Lua released its second generation JIT. It has had a very high take-up rate, particularly in the games industry, where they have been able to embed it very successfully. Another one that is sort of up and coming is Google's Go language. Anyone played with Go? Go's a pretty nice language. You know, there are a number of places where Python is being replaced with Go because of the Go's concurrency and its ability to create small, fast, easily deployable binaries that will just drop onto a system and run. And this is one of the things that, frankly, deployment is a challenge for us. You know, mobile is a challenge for us. Really, really high efficiency constrained spaces. Now, I think also in scientific computing, you have things like Julia. I don't think Julia is going to be a big deal, but R especially is very widely known for its statistical excellence, for its built-in graphical capabilities that are better than ours. You know, now you may ask, why do I care? Because we have Python, and we love it, it's growing. The reason why is because it's important that we keep on growing, or else we'll end up eventually we can end up in the same place where Smalltalk and Tickle are. You know, there was an interesting thread and series of articles in the Tickle community about a year ago where they talked about the fact that no one writes Tickle applications anymore. Anyone done Tickle? When was the last time anybody actually did something new in Tickle? 96, 99? These languages, how about Smalltalk? Anyone done any Smalltalk since the mid-'80s? The fact is, these are fantastic languages, but they had a lot of things going for them. But because they've not grown, they've died. And if we don't effectively effectively counter and work on our market share challenges, the thing that we rely on and that is so important to us, not just the language, but the community that is formed around it, can die too. That's why this is so important. You know, we have technical challenges with Python, but I think that we are also facing challenges associated with scaling our community. You know, between 10 and 20 years ago, just being there in that sweet spot, you know, focusing on the program, focusing on the programmer, it really was enough. There were a lot of those excellent design choices, and I think, like I said, the Zen of Python was so important in forming a culture around programming, helping us approach it as a unified community. There's really something special about this community. You know, the mission of the Python Software Foundation overall is to, I'm going to read it, to promote, protect, and advance the Python programming language, and to support and facilitate the growth of a diverse and international community of Python programmers. You know, those are important words. Those are really important words. Because if you look around us today, a lot of us are getting older.
I'm not.
Except for Anna. You know, we need to start doing the things that will start to create the Python community of 20 years from now. So that when we are coming, when it is EuroPython 2033, we have a group that looks at least like this, if not bigger, if we don't have groups this big in every single country here in Europe, in every single country in the world. We need to start thinking about those things because it is not only our community. From our perspective, if we don't build and grow this community, then it'll go away. And so I'd like to talk today about some things that we're doing to actually push things forward and create the next 20 years of Python, the community side. First, I want to talk about the PSF Code of Conduct. Now, we had Judge Dredd up here earlier endorsing the Code of Conduct. I'm always happy to get an endorsement from a superhero. I talked earlier about the Zen of Python and how that has been so important in terms of helping us decide what is Pythonic as a community. That was really focused around code. The Code of Conduct, and I have to highlight Brian Curtin's role. He's one of the directors of the PSF. He really took this on and pushed it forward. He led the way in trying to help us make not only our community more cleaner, better, more Pythonic. You know, you see that there is such a thing as a Pythonic community as well. You see it here in the efforts of Giovanni and Lorenzo and all those people, again, like I mentioned, in the yellow shirts. You see it in the presentations here at EuroPython. You see it in the hallway track, in the conversations that happen between people, and the interactions. It's with respect, it's with appreciation, it's with an open mind and really being ready to learn. But over the past year or two, we've been really trying to capture what makes our Python community different as well. And I think that has been captured very well in the official PSF Code of Conduct. And it is, the Python community is made up of members from around the globe with a diverse set of skills, personalities, and experiences. It's through these differences that our community experiences great successes and continued growth. When you're working with members of the community, we encourage you to follow these guidelines, which help steer our interactions and strive to keep Python a positive, successful, and growing community. A member of the Python community is open. Members of the community are open to collaboration, whether it's on PEPs, patches, problems, or otherwise. We're responsive to constructive comment and criticism, as the experiences and skill sets of other members contribute to the whole of our efforts. We're accepting of all who wish to take part in our activities, fostering an environment where anyone can participate and where everyone can make a difference. Considerate. Members of the community are considerate of their peers, other Python users. We're thoughtful when addressing the efforts of others, keeping in mind that oftentimes the labor was completed simply for the good of the community. We're attentive in our communications, whether in person or online, and we're tactful when approaching different views. Respectful. Members of the community are respectful. We're respectful of others, their positions, their skills, their commitments, and their efforts. We're respectful of the volunteer efforts that permeate the Python community. We're respectful of the processes set forth in the community, and we work within them. When we disagree, we're courteous in raising our issues. Overall, we're good to each other. We contribute to this community not because we have to, but because we want to. If we remember that, these guidelines will come naturally. This, I just read that. That was sort of a long block of text, but that is the Zen of Python for our community. It is about really making, it is about coalescing all the things that make the Python community great and helping it putting it down in words so that we can point each other to it, so that we can use it as a touchstone. And as we work back and forth, we can help each other be better. It's about being the best people that we can be and being the best community that we can be. You know, my favorite line there is, overall, we're good to each other. We contribute to the community not because we have to, but because we want to. Every single one of us, I think that applies to us here. You know, they always say that Python is the community, is the language with batteries included. And that's definitely true. You know, I know there have been so many times when I've just looked and, wow, there in the standard library has been exactly the thing I need. But it's more than that. Python is the language with community included. And that makes all the difference. Second thing I want to talk about is education. Now, as I mentioned, some of us, not all of us, some of us are getting older. And we need to think about where are the next generation of Python programmers coming from? And I tell you, it's going to come from education. I want to tell you about two interesting things that have happened over this past year, which I think really bode well for the growth and development of the next 20 years of Python. First is, I'd like to talk about Sam Berger. Does anyone recognize this guy? Sam is an 11-year-old. I think he's 11, maybe 12, from South Africa. And he had gone to every single Python, every single computer thing, class and club and everything that was offered where he was. And he had outstripped them all. And so he and his dad reached out to us at the PSF and said, is there anything that you can do to help us? Well, we actually brought him and his dad. We brought him to the most recent PyCon over in Santa Clara in California in the United States. And he was actually able to attend the professional level tutorials and the classes. And he was able to interact with all the people there, learning just as the community here does. People like Sam are where the next generation of Python leaders are coming from. And this is in the poster session. He actually presented a poster session. Now, I cropped this because anyone know who he's presenting to? You know, if there's one... You know, if there's anything that describes the next 20 years of Python, I think it's that picture. I'd also like to talk a second about the Raspberry Pi. Have anybody had a chance to play with a Raspberry Pi? They're cool little computers, aren't they? They're really fun. You know, had a chance to talk with Eben Upton a little bit. And he talked about how the Pi in Raspberry Pi actually stood for Python. You know, he's since needed to defend his spelling and changing the spelling a number of times. But he talked about his vision, and it went all the way back to some of the Acorn computers or the early basic computers. So when you booted up a computer in the early 80s, or even up through like 1990, what was the first thing that you saw? Basic, a prompt. And then what would you need to do? You would need to type stuff. So the very first thing that you would do is essentially start to interact with the computer. You would start to program it. And if you wanted to run some kind of other program, you needed to make an affirmative decision to do something else. You needed to run some other program or load something else. But the very first thing that you would do when it came up was it would present you with a programming prompt. That was an incredibly powerful thing, because what it did is it created an entire generation of people who understood that, you know what? It is, these computers are tools. They're things that we can use to be creative, to build tools, to make things better for society. That's an incredibly powerful thing that you can teach just by making it so that there's a prompt, a programming prompt. That's the first thing that you see. Now, these days, most of the computers that we interact with are either embedded or they're really designed around consumption, which is fine. You know, everyone likes to play a game or watch a movie or do Facebook or be social or things like that. But there's something really empowering about understanding that the computer is a tool and you won't break it by playing with it. You know, one of the things that the PSF has really been advancing is the idea of young coders. This is something that's now happening in 3 different countries, in the UK, in the United States, and I was talking to Marc-Andre, actually in Germany, about advancing the use of Python to teach students to teach students how to use computers. I'd like to talk about 2 things in that regard. First, more formally, at PyCon UK last year, there was a teacher named Miss Philbin, or Miss P as she goes by, who teaches ICT. I don't know what ICT stands for. Anyone from the UK here? Say again? Information and Communication Technology. And so she has her website, ICT with Miss P, that she put up, and she's got one of these Raspberry Pis, and she started putting together educational materials about how to teach some of these programs, the educational objectives for the UK, in Python. And this is her personal website. It's not really, she didn't advertise this or anything. She said she started getting tens of thousands of hits just for her personal website. And so she reached out to the PyCon UK Society, and they brought her in. And it led to a collaboration where we now have Python programmers helping create some of these educational curriculum modules so that people can teach. In fact, Python is being considered, and I think is in the lead, to be the official teaching language for all of the UK. Here in the United States, you know, we did a thing at PyCon called Young Coders, where we brought in kids from 11 to 13 and then 13 and older. This is actually a picture. Someone brought actually even their 4-year-old and helped them. And they went through and they taught these kids to start programming using the Raspberry Pi. And it was amazing because these kids who've grown up in the age of being delivered in really consumption-oriented culture, when they realized that they could type things into this computer and make the LEDs light up, you should have seen their eyes light up. It was amazing. They would sit there, they had programmer face on. How many of you know programmer face? And there was an entire group of kids who came back the first day, the second day, glued to the computers. You know, one of the things that's interesting, that's fun on the Raspberry Pi is they have a version of Minecraft that's actually scriptable with Python. And so all these kids who'd played Minecraft and who were used to block, you know, drag a block, You show them that you can do 4I in 20 block. You know, and it builds the wall for you. You know, they were excited about that too. You know, they could build things faster than anybody else. But the point is, that was so successful that we got inquiries from the Department of Education in the United States for the entire country asking about how we could support this. We got inquiries from Mexico. We got inquiries from all over the world, in fact, about taking this. And so what we're doing is we're taking this Young Coders to curriculum, we're working it out, and we're going to be placing it on Python.org as a way for people to take this and to teach young kids Python. Finally, I'd like to talk about the future of the PSF and a little bit about Python.org. Now, one of the things that's not very surprising when you think about us as programmers is that we like to build stuff. And so when we've had our current website for a little while. And naturally, when we decided to build it back in 2004, 2005, 2006, we decided, nothing quite made it exactly like we wanted. And so it is this very weird, you check it out and you build the website. And, at one point, I think we actually had pieces of the website that were backed off of RCS. If you've worked with RCS, I'm very sorry. And so I think it looks great. But one of the things I'd like to introduce to you today is actually the new Python.org. And there are two things that I think are great about this. So the new Python.org is built on a responsive set of templates. In fact, it's mobile first, so that only sends down the information that you need. So if you want to see it, you can actually go to preview.python.org and hit it right now. And so you try resizing your browser, and it's completely dynamic. There was an amazing amount of thought and design that went into trying to reflect the Python community and our sensibilities, and trying to present us with a serious but elegant visual identity. There are links to sister sites, the docs, PyPI, jobs. I mentioned the education. One of the things that we have planned there, we haven't implemented it yet. It's actually going to be split into two, where it's going to have on one side, so you want to learn Python. It's going to point to all the various places where there are courses about Python. And on the other side, it's going to be so you want to teach Python. And it's going to have curated content for teachers at all different levels, addressing all different countries, trying to help them teach it. The main navigation there goes to more casual users who just want to know where to go. And it allows people to look for success stories, to go to the blog, etc. On the back end, the new Python.org is built on Django. The whole website is editable through the web and will support offline editing as well. And it's served via HTTPS. Everything that went into designing the new Python.org was actually about making it easy for the community to get involved. Because it would be, every time there was a choice, it was what would make it the easiest for the community to participate in, to support, to build over the next 10, 15 years. We're building in a community directory where people can tie their Python.org to GitHub, Meetup, Bitbucket, Twitter, their own individual feeds, etc. All this is also completely written in Python 3.3, served from the ground up there. Now, the important thing here is I'd also like to talk about one important thing that this is going to implement. Now, how many people here are currently members of the PSF? So a few. One of the main things that we've done over the past, this just happened over the past 3 months, and we're working on implementing it, is that we said, the PSF is not broad enough. It's not inclusive enough. It should include every single person who attends a conference like this. a person who wants to ally themselves with the Python community. And so in early April, there was a vote among the current membership. And we are completely redoing the membership model for the Python Software Foundation so that it will be moving to an entirely open membership. And starting later today, you will actually be able to go onto this, and if you scroll down, it'll say, become a member of the PSF. You'll be able to sign up. That functionality is going live today. I tell you, we want to have every single member of the Python community to be a member of the PSF. And so there will be those, instead of having be invitation only, it is going to be the home for every single person who goes to a conference like this, who uses Python in their work, who uses Python to play. You know, we're going to recognize those who put in additional efforts through funding development activities, who contribute code or documentation or tests. We're going to recognize those who spend time organizing. But fundamentally, we want you to sign up and we want you to be a member of the PSF because the PSF is changing to be your home. What's more, internationally, we're going to be inviting every formally organized group to be an affiliate of the PSF, or bringing it in under, or inviting them to be sort of one of our working groups. So that the things that you do are going to be part of the broader Python ecosystem. And you'll be able to, when you sign up, you're going to be able to see the hundreds of thousands of Python users all over the world and connect with them and work with them just through Py.org. You know, this is the most significant change that we've had in the PSF in the Python community since the formation of the PSF about 14 years ago. Because what we're fundamentally doing is we're saying, we need each of you. I said a couple times, this is really all about the community. This is about you. This is about building the next 20 years of Python, and we need every one of your help. But I know that as we do it, as we connect with each other, as we reach out to the next generation, that we will be able to make Python the best language and the best community for the next 50 years, not just the next 20. That's it.
Okay, questions? There we go.
Yeah, I wrote my question down at that time. When you mentioned the code of conduct and that a community member is open, respectful, and considerate, I noticed that you said considerate and open towards other Python programmers. Well, are we not, in general, more globally considerate also towards other languages? I mean, that is a concern for some communities are just, well, they can't cope with other communities.
I think that that's a great point. We are open and considerate because, you know, toward all people, honestly. And frankly, there are so many things that we have to learn. One of the things that we've had at various Python conferences is we've had like dynamic languages conferences where we brought in people who've done Smalltalk and Lua and JavaScript and Ruby. And we've had a conference about what are the things that we can each learn from each other. So we think that we have the best language, but, you know, and we can do that. But it's important to be respectful because, you know, nothing is so, when you have so many options out there, really having the community be there and supportive and available makes all the difference. You know, Python actually has as a community, I think that we have the largest percentage of female programmers in any open source language community. And that is because we've spent the past several years trying to be open and to provide mentorship opportunities and to be accepting of people wherever they are, whatever they're doing. And as a result, for example, at some of our recent conferences, we've had 20% women. I don't know exactly what the percentage is for EuroPython here, but it seems like we do also have a fair number here. We're open to everyone. Other questions?
Even from the room upstairs, if they can hear me. Yes. 1 second, 1 second.
But there is
Everybody can hear otherwise.
Is there anybody who?
Thank you. Damien Campbell of InThought. I'd like to ask the question that has been asked every EuroPython for several years, depending upon the speaker who's been up on the stage. It is related to the relationships within Python programming and very relevant to the talk here. And that is, could we ask the audience a show of hands for those that are actually writing applications in Python 3 as opposed to those who are still working in Python 2. Very simply. Python 3. Oh, it's more than last year, but not that many. Okay, interesting. Many thanks.
With regard to Python 3, we are going through a transition. As you all know, when Python 3 was announced, we anticipated that there would be a 5-year transition. We're about 3 years into that. We're on schedule. And what's more is that with Python 3.3 especially, and the compatibility between 2.7 and 3.3, and the new porting forward of major libraries, actually far more than half of the top packages on PyPI support Python 3.3. And what's more is, I think like 70 or 80% have declared their intention to support 3.3 onward. You can have a single source strategy for doing both 2.6 and above, as well as 3.3. It makes it especially easy if you're 2.7 and above, 2.7 and 3.3 plus. And this language cycle that we're in right now, in the 3.3 release, is very exciting because this is the one where we're actually crossing over. We've made more than 50% in terms of people who are planning on and who are starting to work in 3.3 either partially or exclusively.
Here we go.
While we're doing the whole show of hands things, I'd like to see a show of hands for people who it's their first Python conference attendance.
Awesome. Welcome to all of you.
I have a question, actually. So by opening up the membership of the PSF to be an open group, how is the decision-making process going to be? Because usually when you increase the number of people that can decide on something, you quadratically increase the time that they spend discussing something.
That's actually a good point. And we spent a lot of time debating this, not surprisingly. The way that it's going to work is that we're making the basic membership open to everybody. That says, if you want to say, I am a member of the Python community, I support these values, I support sort of a Pythonic approach to both community and code, you can become a member. And if you want to stay there, then that's great. But then we also want everybody, we understand that there are different ways in which people will participate and ways in which they'd like to contribute. Some people like organizing things, other people don't. Some people like writing code. Other people are, I write tests or docs, or they just want to be in it. And so everybody has different things that they contribute. That's part of what makes the community great. What happens is that if you wish to advance in the Python Software Foundation, you'll have the opportunity to do it by contributing code, tests, docs, things like that, by organizing, by supporting and funding. And then for those who put together those, who have demonstrated a commitment to the Python Software Foundation by putting forth 5 to 10 hours a month of work, they're going to be eligible for voting privileges. And if you are doing that, you'll receive an email each year where it could say, would you like to also participate sort of in the administration of the PSF? If you say no, all right, no problem. If you say yes, then you'll have the opportunity to vote on certain things. And then there will be different portions of the administration will be delegated to what we're calling working groups, where you seek to isolate the people who are really committed and who are interested in working on stuff and give them the final say. Because really, it's very similar to how open source works. In open source, a lot of people can complain and can do this, but who really controls how the code looks? The person who's writing the code, right? Here, it's the people who are going to have the opportunity to vote and who are going to have the opportunity to weigh in on different issues are the people who have demonstrated commitment to the Python community by doing one of these things, and who have stood up and said, I'm interested in this particular issue, I'd like to contribute to it. And so by helping focus to your question specifically, by helping focus the decision-making power in those who really have a stake in it and who have demonstrated an interest in it, and helping them work with other people who have a similar stake, we think that we can corral it, because not everybody's going to be interested and weighing in on every aspect of PSF policy. And then, of course, we're going to have the board of directors and various coordinating groups who are overseeing it all. Then, when a working group puts something forward, it'll be depending on what kind of thing it is. It could go to either the voting members for approval or up or down, or it could go to the board depending on what's needed.
Hi.
All right then.
I've got one.
Oh.
Hey, Van. Thanks for a great talk. I guess a lot of us maybe came to Python from another language, and one of the reasons that we love it is because it's so much better than what we came from. I came from a bit of JavaScript, a bit of PHP, a bit of Java, and there's that feeling of, oh, what a relief.
Yes.
This is what it should be like. Wonderful. So it's maybe you love it because it's an alternative to something. Is there a danger that if Python becomes the default language in schools and for learning programming, that suddenly it becomes a bit square? So it becomes the establishment, it becomes the thing you learn first, it becomes boring, and so all the kids that are going to grow up with Python are going to see it as this sort of old thing, and they're going to be looking for something new, and we're going to lose that sort of novelty value or that kind of underdog, rebellious kind of spirit by being too square.
Maybe
it doesn't matter.
That's a good question. I would honestly say the time when Python was rebellious was probably 10 years ago. We're a little bit square right now. I'm square and proud of it. I would think that really, when you look at it, it's all about the things that we use to attract people to Python. And if what we have is being the new shiny thing and being rebellious, that's not going to last very long. And the cool kids moved on to Ruby, and then they moved on to Node, and then move on to something else. Next. I think that we offer different things. We offer solid code. We offer elegance. We offer simplicity, and we offer community. And those are the things that, if we really double down on them and we emphasize them, people will learn other languages, and they'll be better for it. And then they'll come back to us because we have those things.
Nobody will say, PHP, what a relief.
My name is Moshe Goldstein from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. I want 2 points to say. First, the controversy of 3 against 2. Right, Python 3 against Python 2. I think personally that it was at the beginning at least, in the release of 3, it was an error to break compatibility because I personally wrote thousands of lines of code in Python 2 point something, and I am not ready to waste my time in the translation, non-bug-free translation from 2 to 3. And I think that most of the people here that don't write in 3, one of the reasons is that, because the incompatibility causes that that if you translate, even if with the program 2 to 3, that is not bug-free, the translation, is a problem. It's a problem. I continue to use now 2.7, 2.731 or 3.2, what you say, what you want, but I don't. Now, actually, I am not ready to make the decision to translate all my code to a version 3, and you have a real solution to break that barrier on that. That is my first point. I have a second point, but please your answer to that.
I think that a lot of the work around 3.3 in particular was about making the transition between 2.7 and 3.3 easier. There were a number of things that were put in specifically for compatibility back with 2.7 that make it actually really relatively easy to support both. I've been involved in a number of porting efforts where people said, that's it? I mean, there was one fairly substantial area of piece of code that required literally a single change in order to make it work in 2.7 and 3.3 simultaneously. So I guess my response to you is that the efforts that you have, the concerns that you have been heard, and a lot of the work has been put in, particularly in 3.3 in particular. I'd encourage you to look at that to make it so that you will be able to have that single source that will work on 2.7, so you don't lose that, and will be forward compatible with 3.3 as well.
And thank you. My second point is about programming education. I teach programming in the Hebrew University and also in the Jerusalem College of Technology. And this academic year was the first year that in the natural sciences in the Hebrew University, we taught Python as the first language for first semester, first year students of non-computer science students. And the next year, all the biosciences departments will have a required course of programming in Python.
Excellent.
And also the computer science department decided for next year to have the first a course in programming from, they moved from Java to Python.
Excellent.
And I think that it will be a good thing that this organization would have, maybe that you have. I am new I am the first time that I in this conference, and I will be very, very happy to be a member of PSF now, to have something like a task force in programming education, especially in programming college education.
Talk to me after, because I think I'd love to get you involved.
Hi, I'd like to share a different view actually on the 2 versus 3 version of Python. So I only started programming in Python like 6 months ago. And so I've no experience whatsoever, and the whole version was 3.0, or well, it's 3.03, I suppose. But the problem in my case is that I'm writing applications in Solaris, and the last version in Solaris at the moment is 2.6 in update 1. And actually I need to deploy it in Solaris 10, which is the main server in my group, which is an even older version. So my only options was 2 in this case. So my question would be, is there any movement inside the PSF to actually map the default versions of Python in all the different platforms and maybe approach those communities to try and figure out why are they being holding back, or what is stopping them to adopt the new version?
Yes, we are working with that. We've had the most success. We've had the most success with Mac. They're going to be shipping with Python 3 in one of the upcoming releases. I think it's going to be at least 3.3, or depending on their schedule, maybe 3.4. And then with Ubuntu is going to be making Python 3 the default Python in their next upcoming long-term support release. Fedora and Red Hat, they've got a very long support cycle, but we've engaged with them in terms of working on the transition as well. Solaris is very difficult because it's, to a certain extent, been kind of, Oracle isn't really doing much with it. So we can reach out to them, but unfortunately that's going to be a harder one, because to the extent that the platform is not being developed forward very much, a lot of times what I've seen people do is to actually put, you can compile the binary, and when you put in your own program, you put in your own program libraries, etc., just put in an updated interpreter as well. Yeah.
So my name is Luciano, working from Intel, and I wanted to address a little bit the hardware compatibility or the hardware acceleration for Python. There are, you see, Java is faster than Python. Google is doing hard work to accelerate JavaScript and so on. And are there any thoughts about helping, letting the hardware help Python, or letting Python help hardware?
Yes, absolutely. There are actually a number of there are 3 different projects that I'm aware of. One is looking toward a register-based implementation of Python that's still compatible with the base C Python. Another is PyPy, which has a JIT. And the third that I find very exciting, have any of you looked at or played with Numba at all? Have any of you heard of Numba? Numba is an optimizing compiler. It's mostly for vectorizing and math-related stuff, but it will get you actually just as fast as Fortran or C just by adding an AutoJIT decorator over your function. So take a look at that. So there are active research projects in terms of doing that. What?
PyPy.
PyPy, yes. Did I not mention PyPy?
Oh, sorry.
Then Alex Martelli also had a comment.
Just a little comment about this Python 3 stuff and Solaris and 2.6 and so. Maybe you can adapt your software to fully exploit what 2.6 offers and drop 2.5 compatibility. And then you have already gone quite a way towards 3.3 because there's quite some compatibility. But you need to drop 2.5 because there is some stuff you can't do in a similar way in Python 3. But if you support 2.6 at least and 3.3 at least, quite a lot of stuff gets rather easy. And there are quite some stuff on the internet and blog posts about this stuff. So just look it up and look up 6 and look at what 6 offers for 2.5 and maybe not do that, but rather drop 2.5.
I also had a couple comments. First of all, there's some doubt. I think there may have been a violation of the code of conduct because somebody spoke curse words, like, you know, the 3-letter word with an H in the middle. I don't think that's allowed. I mean, keep it clean. Sorry. Okay. Now, on a more serious point, my core answer to why it wasn't wrong, it was absolutely indispensable, and Python would be dying by now if we hadn't done it, to introduce an incompatibility, comes back to that little point Van made, and I will vastly elaborate this afternoon about good enough is good enough. A core reason good enough is good enough is that you do get to fix your mistakes. If you recognize you made a mistake the first time and it's considered an error to ever fix that mistake, then good enough is not good enough anymore. You need to design for 50 years before releasing anything. Otherwise, you hear criticism for introducing backwards incompatibilities when you fix your mistakes. I want to make it very clear. Going for single byte character strings as the default was not a debatable design decision in retrospect. Hindsight being 2020, it was a bad mistake. At roughly the same time, Java was doing the right design decision of having string be Unicode. That's what text is about, because English-speaking countries are not the only ones in the universe. I think...
Anyone here from a non-English speaking country?
You're American, you should raise your hand. And fixing that error could not be done in a backwards compatible way, full stop. That's everything else you can debate, but not the fact that text should be universal, and that requires Unicode.
On a related note to the English-speaking countries, who is here and is not from Europe? Few people. All right. Still can be called EuroPython. Any more questions? Not even upstairs? Sorry? Okay. Nope. We have 10 minutes to lose, so.
We just
wait a second.
Excuse me?
It's not really a question, but could you please submit your lightning talks to some lightning talk registering boards, which I also asked the organizers to put out at the registration desk?
All right, let's make sure you do lightning talks. It's one of the most fun things. So, in which case, thank you all. Enjoy EuroPython.